That's Walter, the movie Walter. Like I said, I had the chance to interview actor Andrew J. West, who plays the title character of Walter, and the director of Walter, Anna Mastro. The first question that we posed was just to more or less jumpstart the discussion about Walter being kind of a quirky character who always seems out of element. And here's that interview.
Yeah, oh my God, it was so fun to play. It's also terrifying to play, too, because you're right. This guy is always out of his element. He's never comfortable, And that was something that I thought a lot about going into it, and it's not comfortable to put yourself into a mindset where you're always uncomfortable, and it shouldn't be. It should be uncomfortable if that's how your character feels. But the weird byproduct of that, I think, is the way, like the physicality of this character, because I watch the film and sometimes I watch it and I'm thinking, like, what the hell was I doing? I look like such a weirdo, But I think that the reason for that is because it's like when this guy steps out of his little sanctuary of his bedroom, it's like he's constantly on guard, and there's always a sense of, it's almost like he doesn't want to draw attention to himself. He's tense all the time. And that starts to manifest itself physically. So a lot of those physical things weren't really planned. It was just being in that mindset. I felt myself carrying myself that way. What's cool about the movie, though, is that you see him more tense in certain situations than others. With his mother, he's very tense. With around Kendall, he's obviously kind of a mess. What's cool, though, and it's really in the script too, is that with Greg, you see him loosen up a little bit, even though he doesn't want, he's not welcoming this presence into his life. You see like a side that's almost more comfortable in a way, kind of opening up in a certain way, and communicating with Greg in a way that he would never communicate with his mother, with Kendall. You start to see that a little bit with the psychiatrist too, with William H. Macy's character. You see him let go a little bit of that like tension that he has. It's a different kind of tension, but it's not that like tense kind of like I just need to not draw attention to myself and do my job, and I don't know how to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. It's a different thing, which I think is cool. But it was challenging. It was
Greg is like really the catalyst that just like pushes him right out of his comfort zone, like challenges him to talk to the girl, like to freak him out, to change his routine, to do all these things that like pull him out of this bubble he's created, and it leads him to the therapist and all of these things, and to ultimately realize like that he just needed to deal with losing his dad instead of creating all of this other stuff to not deal with that. So yeah.
Well, I kind of felt that comfortability maybe Greg was the only one who understood, or who was in on the secret.
Yeah.
So to speak. Because you kind of played it as, the whole decision between heaven and hell as, that's my thing, and no one else really knows and understands that.
Right. And how could anybody else? Because I'm special, Mm-hmm. Like that's Walter's sort of idea of himself. It's like no one could understand this, But Greg, with having the nature that he has, you're absolutely right. He's right there, So it's like he has that access to it. So, on a very like deep subconscious level, Walter is able to open up to him and communicate with him in a way that he couldn't with any other person, Yeah, absolutely.
Now, was there any trepidation in dealing with like religious topics like this?
No, because I don't. It's not. I never saw it as a religious movie. I mean, it deals with religious themes, but it's not. I never saw it that way, and it doesn't take a religious or political stance. It doesn't tell people what to think or how to think or what to feel. It leaves it up to the audience to take what they will from it. And it kind of just uses that mythology surrounding the notions of heaven and hell as a backdrop.
Yeah, kind of a jumping off point.
Right.
Because I felt like, when the movie first starts, there's this mystery that has to be unraveled eventually.
Right.
And the religion it wasn't religion, it was just, I guess, where his character was at the point, and what was revealed at the end of the movie.
Right.
It's really imagination, too. I mean, like, Walter thinks of movies as church. And I think like there's a lot of like thematic stuff like that in the movie, whether it comes across or not, of just like that's where people go to like feel like they can lose themselves for a while or feel safe or, you know, be taken on an adventure. And a lot of times like he sees his old life with his dad as, you know, part of a movie, or who he'd like to be with this girl, or, you know, other things. And I think that's his like religion almost. I mean, it's very much like not specific in terms of a religious movie, but, you know, kind of like other things saving us or helping us or giving us hope, and that's kind of where we were trying to go with it.
We talked about just the fact that Walter itself is such a quirky story. What was their first thoughts about Walter when reading the script?
Well, so I first read. Well, geez, you know what? Let me think now. The short film was based on a short story. That was the first piece of material that started this whole thing. And I might have read the short story before I even read the short film. I don't know, but either way, it was either the short film or the short story. And the first thing I thought was this is a really compelling character, first off. But I was struck by how well the 3-act narrative was structured, you know? You don't see a lot of scripts like that. A lot of scripts are structurally kind of a mess these days. You know, it's like, and sometimes you can get away with it if you have a really brilliant, team that's gonna turn it into an experience that is special. But the cool thing about this script was that there was a very specific journey that had a beginning, middle, and end, and it had a bunch of twists and turns that were surprising to me, and it ended with a really strong catharsis. You know, it's basic stuff. It's like traditional storytelling stuff. But again, like I read scripts all the time for auditions and for these things, and you don't see it all the time. You really don't. So even in the short film, even had that too. So I remember thinking, this is a good story. You know, this is something that I would watch. This is something that I would be into, just as a audience member or a consumer of stories or whatever. And that was what initially attracted me to it. But then also just the fact that I get to play like a weird, quirky guy, which would be, you know, challenging and fun and interesting and all that too. So
the movie was shot in Indianapolis, or actually, I should say the movie takes place in Indianapolis. And what was it? Why was that choice being made? And how did the execution of shooting in Indianapolis come off?
Yeah, we really wanted Indianapolis and Speedway especially to be a character in the movie. You know, like this is his world. And I went there and I just fell in love with it. I was like, no one's ever filmed this. This is like the town that time forgot. Like, it's so pretty and it's like just kind of not changed way. And it felt very cinematic to me, and I was like, we have to come shoot here. But of course we couldn't, because they have no tax incentive and there's no crew there. So we shot here for 17 days, and then we went and did all the exteriors there for 4 days. And somehow got away with it. But yeah, we were...
Yeah, you know, just to touch on the background of the setting too, Brendan Hill, the producer on the film, is from Indianapolis. So it was important to him, I think, to set the film in Indianapolis just as sort of like it was the hometown that he knew. I'm also from Indiana. I'm from the northern part of the state. The writer went to Indiana University, so there are a lot of Indiana ties. Jim Gaffigan is actually from Indiana also.
Our production designer, Michael Bricker, is based in Indianapolis.
So that, coupled with what Anna was saying about it being a really cool-looking city that you don't see on film a lot, too, just made it the perfect location, I think, you know, for the film. And we were lucky enough to have a few days to shoot exteriors there. So,
but I mean, we were budget challenged. Like 10 days in the film, we were not budgeted to go to Indiana. So it was like a constant every day, like, no, we're going, no, we're going, no, we're going. And somehow we found a way to go. It was like not easy. But I would not give it. It's such an important part of the movie, like the way it looks and the fact that it just doesn't feel like here. It feels like Walter's world, you know, and very Midwest and different. And we used a lot of pieces of the city and kind of weave this route and path for him.
Now, it's always amazing to be able to shoot where you want to shoot. but there's an excitement that comes to seeing a project that you worked on for a long time come together.
But making it's the fun part. It's the finding the money and all the stuff that you're just like, oh. No, but making it's awesome.
Yeah, it's weird too because you don't. It is so wonderful to have a finished film that you're proud of, and that is definitely a celebratory moment. But just getting, and I'm sure you feel this way too, but just getting that first production day locked in, where you can look at a schedule and say like, wow, we are actually going to have cameras rolling on this thing on such and such date. That's a huge day. That's a big celebration because it's like, it takes so many years, like you said, to get funding, to get things going. Just to even get to the point where you can make something like this is a huge accomplishment for the producers and for Anna and for the people, who make that happen. And yeah, it's not easy. Yeah.
So how did you get to Indiana if it looked like it was may not have happened?
We ended up finding like an extra bit of money. A couple days in after people started to see our dailies, they decided to give us the money we needed to finish the film. I think a lot of times when you're starting a film like this, like you don't, the film doesn't fit. I'm a first-time director. The film doesn't fit into any sort of genre. It's not the safe movie to horror movie to put money into or whatever. It's just an original idea. I think that people are scared it doesn't fit in a box financially for them. So it was just this cobbling together of money constantly for like a year until we could be able to do it. And then once people started to see like the work we were putting out every day, and we shot the cinema first here in an open cinema because we couldn't afford to shut it down, they decided to give us like the extra little bit of money we needed to go to Indiana to shoot.
Yeah, and we did have to downsize a pretty good deal in terms of crew and all that.
There's like 10 of us.
Yeah, and we only brought Steve, I think, the DP?
We brought a camera assistant, a DP, a wardrobe person, 2 actors, and
otherwise sound and, the rest of the crew, which was pretty skeletal at that point.
Came from Alabama, maybe?
Yeah, it just came from...
the next state that had a tax incentive, that had crew.
Yeah.
Very few crew.
Yeah, it felt a little guerrilla out there, but it was awesome. I mean, it worked out. We got great stuff.
And the thing about independent films is a lot of times you can get an amazing cast who'll do work that they perceive as being good and want to put in that time just for the sake of getting a piece of work out in the public and getting it made. A lot of times, a lot of these films can't be made without big names. And so we talked about casting this low-budget movie with big stars.
No.
And sometimes meeting them like a year before we might have started shooting when we had no money, that was really what we were talking about doing, is like we would send someone a script. If they were interested, we would meet and we would talk about the character in the movie for a long time. And based on that conversation, every person we met with was in. So if it got to that point and you were going to put me in front of them, they were going to be in the movie. That was it. And a lot of them were people I sought. Like, I wanted Justin Kirk in the movie. I wanted Jim Gaffigan in the movie. Like, and I would wait and stalk and, like, try to find a way to, like, get these people in the movie, like, no matter what. I was just like, this is the cast tapestry that I want to populate this world. And I think everyone in the movie gave, like, an amazing performance.
Yeah,
I was just so blessed.
I was so proud of what I saw all these actors do. I mean, I knew they'd be great, and like you said, I grew up admiring the work of a lot of these actors, Macy and Virginia Madsen. So to get a chance to work with them was a dream come true. And I'm so grateful to the team that put the movie together for sticking to their guns in terms of casting me, because they could have easily went and got whoever, Michael Cera, Miles Teller, I don't know, whoever, like a bigger name actor to play this role, especially after they had all these people attached to it. But, I was really, I just can't believe, I'll be eternally grateful for them sort of sticking to their guns and saying, no, we made the short with you, we really liked what you did, and you're coming back no matter what. It was very cool, because it doesn't always work out that way. And if it hadn't, I wouldn't have held it against them, because I get it. It's, sometimes you need to make sacrifices in order to get the thing made. You need to get certain names attached to get the money that you need. But in this case, they all stuck to their guns and let me come back with them. So it was special. There is so much to like about this film. I mean, first off, I find it just a great piece of entertainment. It's hilarious. It's fun. On top of that, it's got a universally relatable theme. It's about dealing or not dealing with loss and grief, and what the consequences of dealing with or not dealing with those things can be, and how human beings react to loss and grief. To have a sort of a heavier, serious theme like that be laced with so much fun, entertaining humor is rare. And this film has that.